Good afternoon. I am proud to be here today to discuss the Biden administration's commitment of over $3 billion in security assistance for Ukraine. As President Biden said yesterday, the war in Ukraine is at a critical point right now, and we have to do everything we can to help the Ukrainians continue to resist Russian aggression. Today's announcement, the largest security assistance package in total value that we have committed so far, reflects our enduring commitment to support Ukraine. This package includes the authorization of presidential drawdown of equipment from U.S. inventories valued at up to $2.85 billion. And it includes an additional $225 million in foreign military financing to contribute to the long-term capacity and modernization of Ukraine's military. So let me highlight some of the capabilities included in this package. First, as President Biden announced yesterday, we are committing 50 Bradley infantry fighting vehicles with 500 TOW anti-tank missiles and 250,000 rounds of 25mm ammunition. The Bradley vehicles will further enhance Ukraine's ability to conduct complex maneuvers in almost all weather conditions and terrain, especially in the south and the east of the country. The Bradley is a tracked armored vehicle that is agile, provides mounted firepower, and is a significant anti-armor capability. This complements a series of armor commitments by the United States and our allies. These include a French commitment of AMX-10 light tanks, a German commitment of Marder infantry fighting vehicles, both announced this week, as well as a recent joint U.S.-Netherlands commitment to provide upgraded T-72 tanks. This package also includes 100 M113 armored personnel carriers, 55 mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles, or MRAPs, and another 138 HUMVEES. These additional M113s, beyond the 200 we have already committed, will further enhance Ukraine's fleet of tracked armored vehicles to support operations in the east and south. We have now committed more than 1,300 HUMVEEs to enable Ukraine to protect and transport their forces during maneuver operations. The MRAPs will improve Ukraine's ability to maneuver, including through heavily mined terrain. In addition, the package includes significant artillery commitments. These include 18 self-propelled 155mm howitzers, known as the PALADIN system, and an additional 155mm artillery rounds. This is the first U.S. commitment of these self-propelled howitzers, which will provide greater protection and maneuverability than the towed howitzers previously provided, and will complement self-propelled howitzers already provided by allies. We are also providing an additional 36 105mm towed howitzers to strengthen Ukraine's layered approach to fires, as well as 105mm rounds. These capabilities will complement and work with the expanded U.S.-led training beginning this month that will build Ukraine's capacity to conduct joint maneuver and combined operations. We will ensure Ukraine has both the equipment and the skilled forces necessary to sustain its efforts to push back on Russian aggression. We are also committing 4,000 Zuni aircraft rockets, which can be mounted on Ukraine's existing aircraft to engage air or ground targets. In the category of air defense, which is still a top priority for Ukraine, given Russia's ongoing missile attacks, we are committing RIM-7 missiles. These can be integrated into Ukraine's Soviet-era tactical surface-to-air missile systems, and this provides the Ukrainians with additional capabilities to defend against Russian aerial attacks. We will continue to support Ukraine's urgent requirement for air defense capabilities to defend against Russia's brutal attacks, which, as you noticed, continued throughout the holiday season. We commend Germany for its important commitment this week to also supply a Patriot air defense battery to Ukraine. This will supplement the U.S. donation of a Patriot battery announced in December. On the ground in Ukraine, we continue to see intense fighting during this winter, especially in the east around Crimea and Bakhmut. Ukrainian forces are showing an undiminished will to fight to defend their country. Ukraine will continue fighting through the winter with the backing of a large coalition of nations, and we continue to encourage allies and partners to make additional donations to bolster Ukraine's combat and air defense capabilities. The United States has now committed more than $24.2 billion in security assistance since Russia's full-scale invasion last February, and we will continue to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We'll start with Associated Press, Lita Baldor.
Hi, thanks a lot. I guess a question on the Bradleys. A lot of critics would say that it's taken too long for the U.S. and the West to send the Bradleys, and complain that the U.S. has not sent tanks yet. Can you address that and the reluctance to send sort of an Abrams tank? And then just a quick thing, when do you expect the training on the Bradleys to begin? Where will that take place? And when do you expect them to arrive? Even though you don't want to give a specific date, generally, when do you expect them to arrive?
Sure. Thanks, Lita. So in general, I want to emphasize again that we are always looking at what Ukraine needs and providing them what they need when they need it. And their battlefield needs have evolved over time. One of the considerations that we look at is certainly the capability that an item of equipment would offer. But we also have to look at things like maintenance and training, sustainment, and cost plays a factor certainly at times. In the case of the Bradley, what you are seeing is a recognition that this is the right time for us to provide this armored capability. This is the right time for Ukraine to take advantage of its capabilities to change the dynamic on the battlefield. And from a maintenance and sustainment standpoint, and this is really important, the Ukrainians have demonstrated a lot of growing proficiency in maintenance and sustainment, both within Ukraine and relying on new systems that we have set up with our allies and partners to provide what we call telemaintenance in many instances. So at this point, the Ukrainians really are set up for success once we are able to train them on the system. And I think it's important to note that this also comes at the auspicious time that we are expanding our training program. Many of you have heard about our launch that will happen later this month of new combined arms training. So we will be able to enable the Ukrainians to take advantage of this capability. And again, not just actually to employ it on the battlefield, but to maintain and sustain it. And in terms of your question about the timing, it'll take a couple of months, basically, to get this capability fielded, to get the Ukrainians trained. That new training program that we're starting, it's roughly a battalion's worth of forces at a time, so roughly 500 soldiers over the course of roughly a month, and we're adding on the Bradley training. But the tank capability that you reference, this is something that we absolutely agree that Ukraine does need tanks. It's one of the reasons that we partnered with the Netherlands to refurbish a number of T-72 tanks that are already arriving on the battlefield. But we have to be cognizant of maintenance and sustainment considerations with tanks. And certainly we know that the Abrams tank, in addition to being a gas guzzler, is quite challenging to maintain. So we want to look across the board at the range of tank capabilities and see where we can all support Ukraine. But again, we're already doing that with the T-72 tanks, and now we see France also with their light tanks.